Close your eyes for just a moment. Imagine walking into a vast ancient library, one that belongs entirely to you. The shelves stretch endlessly upward, filled with leather-bound volumes. Each book contains a different lifetime, a different version of you, living in worlds you can barely imagine. You were a healer in ancient Egypt, a scholar in medieval monasteries, a mother who loved fiercely under foreign stars. But here's what's strange. As you reach for these books, your fingers pass right through them. They're there. You can sense their presence, but you cannot read them. This library exists within you right now. Every soul carries it. And tonight we're going to discover why those books remain just beyond your reach, and why this forgetting might be the most loving gift your soul has ever given itself. You've probably wondered why you can't remember your past lives. Why, if reincarnation is real, are those memories locked away? Why do you feel ancient wisdom stirring within you, yet struggle to access the experiences that created it? The answer isn't what you think. This isn't about recovered memory techniques or past life regression. This is about understanding something far more profound, something that will change how you see your entire spiritual journey, because your inability to remember is actually proof of your soul's incredible wisdom. And the man who discovered this truth spent 43 years exploring the deepest mysteries of human consciousness. His name was Edgar Cayce, and what he found will transform everything you believe about memory, identity, and why you chose to be here. In a small photography studio in Virginia Beach, something extraordinary was happening twice each day. A humble man would lie down on a simple couch. His secretary would sit nearby, pen poised over paper. And then Edgar Cayce would disappear, not his body. His ordinary conscious mind would slip away, replaced by something far more expansive. In this state, he could access information that shouldn't have been possible. Medical diagnoses for people he'd never met. Ancient history that wouldn't be confirmed by archaeologists until decades later. And most remarkably, the life stories of souls across thousands of years. For over 4 decades, Cayce gave more than 14,000 documented readings. Many of them revealed past life experiences in stunning detail. Yet as he explored deeper into the mystery of reincarnation, he began to encounter something unexpected, something that challenged everything he thought he understood. You see, Cayce had assumed that remembering past lives was always beneficial, that conscious awareness of previous experiences would naturally accelerate spiritual growth. He expected to find that the veil between lifetimes was simply an obstacle to overcome. But the deeper he went into trance, the more he accessed what he called the Akashic records. The more he realized he'd been thinking about this backwards. The forgetting wasn't an accident. It wasn't a limitation of human consciousness or a flaw in the design of reincarnation. It was intentional. According to Cayce's most profound readings, your inability to consciously remember your past lives isn't evidence of spiritual failure. It's evidence of your soul's extraordinary compassion toward yourself. This discovery emerged gradually across thousands of readings, but one case in particular opened Cayce's understanding completely. A woman came seeking help for her inexplicable terror of water. She couldn't swim, couldn't even take baths without overwhelming anxiety. In trance, Cayce saw her past life clearly. She had drowned as a child in ancient Atlantis, watching helplessly as her family perished in the great cataclysm. But here's what surprised him. When he looked deeper, he saw that her soul had chosen to forget this trauma, not because it was weak, but because remembering would have made it impossible for her to function in this lifetime. She needed to overcome her fear of water organically, through courage built in this body with this mind, making choices that weren't overshadowed by ancient trauma. The forgetting was mercy, and it was wisdom. This revelation opened the door to an entirely new understanding of why souls incarnate with veiled memories, and what Cayce discovered next would revolutionize how we think about consciousness, growth, and the courage it takes to be human. Picture this. You're standing at the edge of a cliff, preparing to jump into clear water far below. Now imagine that you suddenly remembered every time you had ever fallen, every scraped knee from childhood, every stumble downstairs, every moment you'd ever felt the ground give way beneath you. every single fall across multiple lifetimes, would you still be able to jump? This is what your soul understood before you were born. And this is why it chose amnesia as its greatest gift to your human experience. Cayce called it the mercy of incarnation. Through his deep trance states, he witnessed souls making this choice consciously, deliberately, not from ignorance, but from profound wisdom about what it truly takes to grow. Imagine trying to love someone if you consciously remembered every betrayal you'd experienced across centuries. Imagine attempting to trust again if you carried the full weight of every time trust had been broken. Imagine trying to hope if every disappointment from every lifetime lived actively in your memory. You wouldn't just be paralyzed, you would be crushed. Your soul knew this. So before entering this body, before taking on this particular adventure of consciousness, it made a loving decision. It chose to veil the memories that would prevent you from experiencing the growth this lifetime offers. But this veiling happens in layers, Cayce discovered. Like an artist preparing a canvas, your soul creates multiple levels of forgetting, each one serving a specific purpose. The first layer conceals traumatic experiences that would create debilitating fear. The drowning victim who couldn't learn to swim again if she remembered dying in floodwaters. The warrior who couldn't find peace if he held every battlefield death in conscious awareness. The second layer veils relationships that would prevent authentic connection. You might have been married to your current best friend in 3 past lives, but your soul hides this knowledge so you can discover their value fresh, without the complexity of ancient patterns overshadowing new possibilities. The third layer conceals abilities and knowledge that would shortcut the development you're here to achieve. You might have been a master healer in Egypt, but your soul veils this expertise so you can earn wisdom through struggle, through the humility of not knowing, through the genuine compassion that only comes from experiencing your own limitations. This isn't punishment. This is the loving architecture that makes genuine choice possible. Think about it. If you remembered every consequence of every decision across lifetimes, would your choices be truly free? Or would you simply be following the path of least resistance, based on fear of repeating ancient mistakes? Your soul wanted something far more valuable than safety. It wanted authenticity, growth, the possibility of surprise, of discovery, of becoming something genuinely new. So it accepted the temporary blindness that makes genuine sight possible. Cayce saw this pattern again and again in his readings. Souls choosing limitation to achieve expansion, accepting forgetting to make real remembering possible, embracing unconsciousness in service of a deeper awakening, and this choice is active right now in your life. There is a moment between lifetimes, a threshold that Cayce witnessed thousands of times through his extraordinary gift. Picture it, a soul, vast and luminous, preparing to compress itself into the tiny form of a human baby, like starlight learning to fit inside a candle flame. This moment of incarnation isn't random, it's conscious, deliberate, sacred. According to Cayce's deepest readings, your soul approaches this threshold with full awareness of what it's about to do. It understands that entering human form requires letting go of cosmic consciousness. It knows that physical life will feel like amnesia after the expansive awareness of the spiritual realms. And yet, it chooses this limitation with joy. Why? Because limitation creates focus, and focus makes certain kinds of growth possible that can't happen any other way. Imagine being a master artist with access to every color that has ever existed. Infinite possibilities stretch before you, but then you choose to paint with only black and white. Not because you've lost your skill, but because you want to create something that's only possible within those constraints. The resulting artwork doesn't exist despite the limitation. It exists because of it. This is what your soul understood at the threshold of incarnation. By choosing to forget its cosmic awareness, it could focus completely on the specific lessons this lifetime offers. By accepting the veil of human consciousness, it could experience genuine surprise, authentic discovery, real courage in the face of the unknown. Cayce described this process as happening in stages. First, the soul reviews what he called the pattern. the blueprint for this lifetime's experiences. It sees the challenges it will face, the relationships it will encounter, the growth opportunities embedded in each situation. But then comes the crucial choice: how much to remember consciously. Some souls choose to retain certain intuitive gifts or unexplained talents, what we call old soul qualities. Others choose complete forgetting, wanting the full human experience of discovering everything fresh. Most fall somewhere in between, keeping just enough subconscious awareness to guide their choices without overwhelming their conscious minds. But here's what Cayce found most remarkable. The souls that chose deeper forgetting often achieved the most profound growth, because they had to develop genuine faith, real courage, authentic trust in a process they couldn't fully see or understand. They had to learn to navigate by feeling rather than memory, to trust intuition over experience, to make choices from love rather than fear of repeating past mistakes. This is why you don't remember your past lives, not because you're not advanced enough, or because you're being punished, or because reincarnation isn't real. You don't remember because your soul was wise enough to know that forgetting would make you stronger, braver, more genuinely loving. At the threshold of incarnation, you made a conscious choice to paint your life with limited colors, so you could create something beautiful that was uniquely yours. The veil isn't hiding your power from you. It's protecting your power until you're ready to wield it consciously, compassionately, wisely. But your soul didn't leave you completely blind. Even though direct memories remain veiled, Cayce discovered that past life influences show up everywhere in your current existence. Like streams feeding into a river, your ancient experiences flow into this lifetime in ways that are impossible to miss. Once you know how to look, that inexplicable fear of heights, your soul remembers falling even if your mind doesn't. The instant connection you felt with a stranger who became your closest friend. You've walked together before, through lifetimes you can't consciously recall. That talent for music that seemed to come from nowhere, requiring no formal training. Your fingers remember instruments they played under different stars. These aren't coincidences. They're breadcrumbs, your soul scattered along the path of this lifetime, leading you toward recognition without overwhelming you with total recall. Cayce called this the mirror of present patterns. Every challenging relationship in your life reflects ancient dynamics you're here to heal. Every unexplained gift points toward mastery you've developed across centuries. Every recurring struggle illuminates lessons your soul is determined to finally learn. But here's the genius of this system. You get the benefit of all that experience without being crushed by its weight. Think about someone in your life who triggers you instantly. Someone whose presence creates immediate tension, even though they haven't done anything obviously wrong. According to Cayce's insights, this person has likely played significant roles in your past lives. Perhaps as an adversary, perhaps as someone you loved and lost, perhaps as a teacher who challenged you in ways your soul is still processing. You don't need to remember the specific details of those relationships to benefit from them. The pattern is what matters. The opportunity for growth, for forgiveness, for understanding is right here, right now, in how you choose to respond to this person today. Your soul arranged this meeting. It put this relationship in your path because you're ready to heal something ancient, to transform an old pattern into wisdom, to choose love where you once chose fear or anger or withdrawal. The same principle applies to your gifts and talents. That natural ability you have, whether it's for healing, teaching, creating, leading, isn't accidental. You've cultivated it across lifetimes. But your soul veiled the memory of that cultivation so you could rediscover it organically. Earn it fresh. Make it truly yours in this body, with this mind, in these circumstances. This is why some people seem born with certain abilities while others struggle to develop the same skills. It's not about fairness. It's about what each soul chose to focus on in this lifetime. Some are here to rediscover old mastery. Others are here to develop entirely new capacities. And some are here to learn the most challenging lesson of all: how to be ordinary. How to find meaning and joy and growth without being exceptional. How to contribute to the world through simple presence, through loving well, through the quiet heroism of living with an open heart. Cayce's readings revealed that some of the most advanced souls choose the most humble circumstances, the most veiled memories, the most ordinary-seeming lives, because they're here to master the ultimate spiritual skill, finding the sacred in the mundane. Your current circumstances are your soul's classroom. Your relationships are your curriculum. Your challenges are your assignments. And your inexplicable qualities, both gifts and struggles, are resources you've brought with you from lifetimes of learning. You don't need to remember the past to honor it. You're honoring it right now in how you choose to live this moment. But why do some people glimpse past lives while others remain completely veiled? Why do certain individuals seem to access memories spontaneously while you might never experience even the faintest recall? This isn't random, and it's not about spiritual advancement or favor from the universe. Through his extraordinary access to the Akashic records, Cayce discovered that each soul has built-in protection protocols, what we might call psychic circuit breakers that prevent memories from surfacing until consciousness is developed enough to handle them constructively. These aren't arbitrary barriers. They're loving safeguards that your soul established to protect you from being overwhelmed by information you're not yet equipped to process in healthy ways. Imagine a person who suddenly remembered being a powerful ruler in ancient Rome, but who hasn't yet learned humility in this lifetime. That memory could inflate their ego to dangerous proportions, creating arrogance and entitlement that would actually slow their spiritual growth. Or consider someone who recalled being murdered by someone they loved, but who hasn't yet developed the emotional maturity to hold that experience with forgiveness and understanding. Such a memory could create bitterness and paranoia that would poison every relationship they attempt. Your soul's protection protocols evaluate multiple factors: your current emotional stability, your capacity for compassion, your ability to integrate difficult truths without being destroyed by them, your readiness to use memories constructively rather than destructively. Some souls incarnate with these protocols set very high, complete veiling until certain evolutionary markers are reached. Others come in with lighter protection, allowing glimpses and impressions throughout their lives. Still others arrive with specific memories accessible from childhood, usually because their sole purpose requires that knowledge. But here's what Cayce emphasized repeatedly: the timing of remembrance is always perfect. If memories haven't surfaced for you yet, it doesn't mean you're spiritually slow or blocked or unworthy. It means your soul loves you enough to wait until you've developed the strength and wisdom to handle deeper truth about your eternal journey. Think about it this way. Would you give a loaded weapon to a child? Would you share devastating family secrets with someone too young to understand them in context? Would you burden someone who's already struggling with additional challenges they're not equipped to handle? Your soul operates with the same protective wisdom. It waits until you've built the emotional resilience, the spiritual understanding, the psychological stability necessary to integrate memories without being destroyed by them. And sometimes, the protection goes even deeper. Cayce's readings revealed that some souls specifically choose to incarnate with their most traumatic experiences completely sealed away, not just from conscious memory, but from subconscious influence as well. These are souls that experience something so devastating in past lives, perhaps being the victim or perpetrator of horrific violence, perhaps losing everyone they loved in disasters or wars, that even subconscious traces of those experiences would interfere with their ability to love freely in this lifetime. For these souls, complete amnesia isn't just mercy. It's a conscious choice made from the deepest wisdom about what healing requires. If you find yourself in this category, If you have no sense at all of past lives, no unexplained fears or instant connections or inherited talents, it doesn't mean you're somehow less evolved. It might mean you're incredibly brave. Brave enough to choose the ultimate fresh start, to heal at such a deep level that you needed to begin completely new. Your protection protocols aren't keeping you from your power. They're ensuring that when your power is revealed, you'll be ready to use it in service of love rather than in perpetuation of old wounds. Trust the timing. Trust the veils. Trust that when you're ready for deeper truth, it will find its way to you naturally. There's a place beyond time and space where every thought you've ever had, every word you've ever spoken, every action you've ever taken is perfectly preserved. Edgar Cayce called it the Akashic Records, a cosmic library where the story of every soul is written in living light. And through his extraordinary gift, he visited this place thousands of times, bringing back information that transformed our understanding of consciousness, memory, and the true nature of forgetting. Imagine walking through an infinite hall lined with crystalline shelves. Each shelf holds not books, but pure experiences, glowing orbs of memory that contain entire lifetimes. Touch one, and you experience everything: the sights, sounds, emotions, thoughts, and relationships of a complete existence. Every detail is there, waiting. This is where your memories live. Not lost, not destroyed, not faded with time. Perfectly preserved, perfectly accessible to consciousness that knows how to reach them safely. But here's the crucial understanding that Cayce brought back from his journeys into this realm. The records aren't hidden from you as punishment or test. They're held in trust by higher consciousness until you're ready to access them responsibly. Your personal amnesia doesn't mean these records are lost or inaccessible. It means they're being protected. Protected from premature access that could overwhelm you, distract you from current lessons, or activate patterns you're not yet equipped to handle consciously. Think of it like this. A master teacher doesn't give a student access to advanced textbooks until they've mastered the basics. Not because the advanced knowledge is forbidden, but because attempting it too early would create confusion rather than understanding. Your soul is that master teacher. The Akashic Records are the advanced textbooks, and your current lifetime is your basic curriculum, but this doesn't mean you're cut off from the wisdom those memories contain. Cayce discovered that the records influence your current life constantly in ways that bypass conscious memory but still provide guidance, protection, and insight. That intuitive sense that you shouldn't trust a certain person. Your records are whispering warnings based on lifetimes of experience. The sudden certainty that you should take a particular job or move to a specific city. Your soul is drawing on records that reveal how certain choices align with your deeper purpose. The unexplained comfort you feel in certain environments or with particular types of people. The records are recognizing familiar energies and guiding you toward experiences that serve your growth. You don't need conscious access to benefit from your eternal memory. The records are working on your behalf constantly, like a wise counselor who speaks so softly you mistake their voice for your own intuition. And sometimes, when the timing is perfect, when your consciousness is prepared, when accessing certain memories would serve your highest good, the records open themselves to you directly. This might happen in meditation, when your mind is still enough to receive impressions from deeper levels of consciousness. It might occur in dreams, when your ego's defenses are lowered and ancient memories can surface safely. It might come through sudden recognition, meeting someone and knowing instantly that you've loved them before, though in what lifetime you cannot say. But even when direct access remains veiled, Cayce taught that you can develop a conscious relationship with your records, not to force memories, but to attune yourself to their guidance, not to retrieve the past, but to recognize how the past informs the present. This attunement happens through meditation, through prayer, through service to others, through any practice, that expands your capacity to hold complexity and paradox with love. As your consciousness grows, as your heart opens, as your wisdom deepens, the records naturally become more accessible. Not because they were ever truly hidden, but because you've developed the strength to hold them responsibly. The Hall of Akashic Records isn't a distant place you might someday visit. It's the deepest layer of your own consciousness, the eternal memory that underlies all your temporary forgetting. And right now, in this moment, it's whispering to you, guiding you, loving you through the gentle influence of lifetimes you cannot consciously recall, but whose wisdom lives in every breath you take. Your soul doesn't need you to remember specific details to navigate this lifetime with wisdom. Instead, Cayce discovered, it operates through something far more elegant: pattern recognition. Like a master chess player who doesn't consciously recall every game they've ever played, but recognizes winning strategies instantly. Your soul responds to current situations with the accumulated wisdom of lifetimes, without burdening your conscious mind with unnecessary details. This is why you sometimes know things you shouldn't know. Why you can sense someone's character within moments of meeting them. Why certain situations feel immediately familiar or dangerous, even when you've never encountered them before. Your soul is reading patterns, ancient configurations of energy, relationship dynamics, and circumstantial arrangements that it has experienced across centuries. It recognizes the signature of situations that led to growth versus those that created stagnation. It distinguishes between people who genuinely love versus those who manipulate. It identifies opportunities for healing wounds that have been carried across multiple lifetimes. But here's the genius of this system. You get all the benefits of experience without being trapped by specific memories. Imagine if you consciously remembered every time someone had betrayed you across lifetimes. You might become so guarded that you'd never risk authentic connection. But pattern recognition works differently. It allows you to maintain healthy boundaries without becoming bitter, to trust wisely without becoming naive, to love fully while still protecting yourself appropriately. Cayce described watching this process in the Akashic records as like observing a vast computer system processing enormous amounts of data to produce simple, clear outputs. Lifetimes of complex experience get distilled into present-moment wisdom. A feeling about a person, an intuition about a choice, a sudden knowing about what serves your highest good. This is why some people seem naturally wise despite having limited life experience in their current incarnation. They're not consciously accessing past lives, but their soul's pattern recognition system is highly developed, allowing them to navigate situations with unusual insight and maturity. And it's why others might struggle with seemingly simple decisions despite being intelligent and well-educated. If their soul is still developing its pattern recognition abilities, or if this lifetime's purpose involves learning to trust their intuition, they might need to develop this capacity through conscious practice rather than relying on inherited wisdom. Consider the relationships in your life. The people you're drawn to instantly, and those who create immediate resistance in you. Your soul isn't randomly generating these responses. It's recognizing patterns from lifetimes of relationship experience. That person you met and immediately wanted to protect and nurture. Your soul recognizes a pattern of love and mutual support that has existed between you before. Not necessarily romantic love. Perhaps they were your child in another lifetime, or your dearest friend, or a mentor who believed in you when no one else did. That person who triggers irritation despite being perfectly pleasant. Your soul might be recognizing a pattern of dynamic tension that has existed between you. Perhaps they represented authority you needed to rebel against, or they challenged you in ways that ultimately served your growth, even though the process was uncomfortable. The key understanding is this. These pattern recognitions aren't meant to determine your choices in this lifetime, but to inform them. Your soul presents you with familiar energetic signatures But how you respond is entirely up to your current consciousness. You might recognize the pattern of a challenging relationship dynamic, but choose to heal it through love rather than repeating old patterns of conflict. You might sense the familiar energy of someone who supported you in past lives, but decide to develop independence rather than falling into familiar dependence. This is the gift of pattern recognition combined with conscious choice. You get the wisdom of experience without being bound by it. You can recognize what has been while actively creating what could be. Your soul trusts your current consciousness to use its accumulated wisdom in service of continued growth. It provides the recognition. You provide the response. It offers the pattern. You choose how to dance with it. This is why conscious spiritual development is so powerful. As you become more aware of these patterns, as you learn to trust your intuition, while still thinking critically, as you develop the capacity to hold paradox and complexity, you become a conscious collaborator with your soul's wisdom. You don't need to remember your past lives to benefit from them. You just need to pay attention to what you already know and trust yourself to know it. Perhaps the most profound discovery in Edgar Cayce's exploration of veiled memories was this. Sometimes the forgetting isn't just protective. It's a conscious commitment your soul made to honor your own divine timing. Before incarnating, souls often create what Cayce called sacred vows, conscious agreements to forget specific relationships, experiences, or abilities until certain evolutionary markers are reached. These aren't restrictions imposed by higher powers, but promises made from wisdom, like a recovering addict choosing to avoid certain triggers until their sobriety is well established. Your amnesia may be a vow you made to yourself. Consider this. You might have had a profound spiritual relationship with someone in a past life, perhaps as teacher and student, perhaps as fellow mystics exploring the mysteries together. But your soul recognized that if you met them again with full memory of that connection, you might shortcut the individual growth you're both here to achieve in this lifetime. So you made a sacred vow. A promise to encounter each other as strangers, to rediscover what you value in each other without the weight of ancient history, to build something genuinely new rather than simply recreating what once was. This explains the phenomenon of meeting someone and feeling instant recognition, followed by a period of confusion when the relationship doesn't immediately fulfill that initial promise. Your soul remembers the vow to rediscover rather than remember. The recognition is real, but the conscious development of the relationship must happen organically. Cayce's readings revealed numerous examples of such vows. Souls who agreed to forget their mastery of certain abilities until they had learned humility through struggle. Souls who promised to encounter their greatest challenges without conscious memory of previous victories so they could develop genuine courage. Souls who vowed to forget traumatic experiences until they had built enough emotional resilience to transform trauma into wisdom. These vows aren't made carelessly. They represent the deepest levels of soul wisdom about what true growth requires. Think about your own spiritual journey. Have you ever wondered why certain insights or abilities seem just beyond your reach, despite intense effort and sincere desire? Have you felt like you should understand or remember something important, but it remains frustratingly vague? You might be encountering the loving boundary of a sacred vow you made before incarnating. Your soul understood that genuine mastery requires earning wisdom through experience, not just inheriting it from memory. It recognized that authentic compassion comes from working through your own pain, not just remembering how you transcended pain in other lifetimes. It knew that real strength develops through choosing love in the face of uncertainty, not through relying on memories of previous victories, so it made promises to honor the process. To forget until forgetting no longer served growth. To remain veiled until the veiling became more limiting than revealing. But here's what makes these vows so beautiful. They include their own dissolution mechanisms. They're designed to release naturally when their purpose has been served. Have you ever had the experience of suddenly understanding something that had puzzled you for years? of suddenly being able to do something that had always seemed impossible, of relationships suddenly shifting into deeper clarity and connection. These moments might represent the natural completion of sacred vows, your soul recognizing that you've developed the qualities the vow was designed to cultivate, and now you're ready for whatever knowledge or ability or relationship clarity was being held in trust. The vows aren't permanent barriers. They're temporary containers that hold certain experiences until your consciousness is spacious enough to receive them constructively. And sometimes, understanding that you might be working within the loving boundaries of your own sacred vows can bring tremendous peace. Instead of struggling against amnesia or feeling frustrated by limitations, you can honor the possibility that your current constraints were chosen from wisdom. You can trust that whatever you're meant to remember, you will remember when the timing serves your highest good. Whatever abilities you're meant to develop, you will develop when you're ready to use them responsibly. Whoever you're meant to recognize, you will recognize when that recognition serves both of your growth. Your sacred vows aren't keeping you from your destiny. They're ensuring that when you reach your destiny, you'll be ready to fulfill it with wisdom, compassion, and strength earned through your own conscious journey. The forgetting itself becomes a form of sacred service, a gift you gave to your own future self, and to all those whose lives will be touched by who you become through the process of earning your remembrance. If memories are veiled for protection and growth, how do you prepare yourself for eventual remembrance? How do you demonstrate to your soul that you're developing the wisdom and stability necessary to handle deeper truths about your eternal journey? Cayce's readings provided clear guidance on this, but not in the way most people expect. The practices he prescribed weren't techniques to force memories or bypass your soul's protective wisdom. Instead, they were ways to develop the qualities that naturally invite deeper revelation. The first and most essential practice is meditation, not as a method for retrieving past lives, but as a way to develop the inner stillness necessary to receive guidance from your deeper self. When your mind is constantly busy with thoughts, worries, and distractions, there's no space for subtle impressions from your soul's wisdom to emerge. But in the silence of deep meditation, when the ego's chatter finally subsides, you create receptive space. Not for dramatic visions or detailed memories, but for the gentle guidance that's always been there, waiting for you to become quiet enough to hear it. Cayce emphasized that this kind of meditation requires patience and consistency. Most people give up when they don't immediately experience profound revelations, but the real work of meditation is developing the capacity to be present with whatever arises, including apparently nothing. This presence itself is what prepares consciousness to handle deeper truths responsibly. The second practice is service, specifically service that develops emotional maturity and genuine compassion. Cayce observed that souls who accessed past life memories constructively were invariably those who had learned to care about others' well-being as much as their own. Why? Because past life memories inevitably involve relationships. And if you haven't developed the emotional maturity to handle complex relationship dynamics in this lifetime, you're not ready to process the even more complex dynamics that can exist across lifetimes. Service develops this maturity naturally. When you're genuinely committed to helping others, you learn to set aside your ego's immediate desires in favor of what serves the greater good. You develop patience, compassion, and the ability to see situations from multiple perspectives. These are exactly the qualities needed to handle past life memories without becoming overwhelmed or misusing them. The third practice is study, not just spiritual study, but any learning that expands your capacity to hold paradox and complexity. Cayce noticed that people who struggled with past life memories often had rigid belief systems or black and white thinking patterns. They couldn't handle information that challenged their existing worldview or required nuanced understanding, but souls who integrated past life information successfully were usually people who had developed intellectual flexibility. They could hold multiple perspectives simultaneously, accept uncertainty as natural, and remain open to truths that didn't fit their previous assumptions. This kind of study might include philosophy, psychology, literature, science, Anything that stretches your mind and helps you become comfortable with complexity and mystery. The specific subject matter is less important than developing mental flexibility and intellectual humility. But perhaps most importantly, Cayce emphasized that preparing for remembrance isn't about becoming perfect or reaching some arbitrary level of spiritual advancement. It's about developing what he called attunement, the ability to align your personal will with your soul's wisdom, your individual desires with the greater good. This attunement happens through small choices, daily practices, moment-by-moment decisions to choose love over fear, service over selfishness, truth over comfort. It's less about dramatic spiritual experiences and more about consistent commitment to growth. And here's what's beautiful about this approach. Even if you never consciously access specific past life memories, these practices transform your life in profound ways. You become more peaceful, more compassionate, more intuitive, more capable of navigating challenges with wisdom and grace. The practices that prepare you for remembrance are themselves the fruits of remembrance. The wisdom you develop while waiting for memories is often more valuable than the memories themselves, because ultimately, what matters isn't what you once were, but who you're becoming. Not what you once knew, but what you're learning to embody. Not what you once achieved, but what you're choosing to create now. Your soul knows this. That's why it veils memories that might distract you from present growth, while gradually revealing just enough guidance to support your continued evolution. Trust the process, engage with the practices, and know that whether memories come or not, you're already living the wisdom of lifetimes in every moment you choose to respond to life with love. Understanding why you can't remember your own past lives transforms how you see everyone else in your life who is equally veiled, equally on their own journey of conscious forgetting and unconscious remembering. That family member who seems to be making the same mistakes repeatedly, despite your gentle attempts to share wisdom with them. That friend who stays in harmful relationships even when better options are available. That colleague who seems unwilling to learn from obvious consequences. They too are operating under the mercy of divine amnesia. They too are learning lessons that require organic discovery rather than inherited knowledge. They too are walking in spiritual blindness toward their own awakening. And this realization births a profound compassion for the incredible courage it takes to be human. Think about your own journey. How many times have you had to learn the same lesson before it truly stuck? How often have others offered you advice that you couldn't hear until you were ready? How frequently have you made choices that seemed obviously wrong to everyone else, but that you needed to make to understand something essential about yourself? This is what love looks like at the soul level. Not preventing each other from making mistakes, but creating space for the mistakes that teach irreplaceable lessons. Not sharing all the answers we wish we